I just think this is, I'm going to say the word again, I think this is cool. I think this is so neat. Ken, thank you for putting this together. Will you join us on the panel right here? I mean, how about that spread of food tonight, folks? Let's thank Ken again for that and his team. And he has truly handpicked this panel for you because he knows each and every one of them, and he knows the depth of their experience with AI. So, do you need your notes or anything, Ken? You okay? I just want to say one thing when we talk about the ranch. It's so funny that I'm 51% owner in the ranch between my husband and I don't ride horses. Those are large animals, right? But I always say I drive a mean John Deere tractor, and I can put the implements on, and if you know what that means, that's pretty darn good, right, Mr. Cowboy right there? So anyway, kind of to break the ice with you, I thought I'd say this. In the meantime, we're here to talk about something that every single person is talking about right now. AI, artificial intelligence. Would you agree? Yeah, everybody. And you know, would you also agree with this? Everybody has an opinion about it. So let's just put that out there right now, that everybody does have an opinion, including these folks right here. But we're not here tonight to necessarily take a stance on it for you. We're here to really explore how it's being used, what's happening right now, and I think something that I want to engage our panel with is, where is it going to go? And I would say everybody has an opinion on where that's going to go. But I would like to let you know we will take questions towards the end of our panel, and we're going to have a good time. This is going to be great. So let me introduce you to the panel right now. And as I introduce the panel, I want you guys to think about the question that after I introduce you all that you can talk about. And that is, we want you to share a little bit more about what your message is about AI. What is your message when it comes to that? Just think about that. Let me tell you who everybody is. Okay, this guy is really cool. This is Alex Duong. And listen to what I got from him. He is a self-pronounced human and servant leader. Now, is that cool? That's what he does. This guy, he does a lot of other things in life, but what he truly loves is doing something new all the time, I think. A lot of adventure in his life. So that's Alex. And of course, next to Alex, you have Ken Brook that you heard from. Ken is the founder and the CEO of AdPrompt, co-founder at AdChain as well. So Ken, once again, thank you for putting this together. Yeah, thank you. And then next to Ken, we've got Allie Ross on the panel with us tonight. She is the founder at Saig Advice. And she's got a lot to say with you. Followed up with Tim Creasey, who is the Chief Innovation Officer at Prosci. So a round of applause as we begin to talk to them. So please share with us what you're particularly drawn to in AI, and what is your message when people come up to you and want to talk about that? I'm going to start with you, Alex. And everybody, y'all have a microphone here. Make sure that's on. I think it is on.
Hello.
There we go.
There we go. First, thanks everybody. Thanks AdPrompt team for hosting this. Very nice. It's nice to meet many of you while we were schmoozing and having some delicious food. I think, do you want to do just like the brief bio or just straight into it?
Well, you can tell us this is not working. You can tell us more about you, but also again, what are your thoughts on AI? I know it's a very broad question, but it'll allow people to get to know you.
Yeah, no worries. I'll start with kind of my message, I think, and it'll kind of develop and build as like a 3-2-1. So I think AI, just like everything else, we all have money. It's a tool, right? How you use money is up to you. AI is very similar in my opinion. It's a tool. But if I had to give you kind of a 3-2-1, right? Think about all the things that you do in your career, job, work, whether you hate it, whether you like it, something. And it usually could fall into one of 3 buckets, right? So this is your 3, and then we'll get to 2 and 1. Your 3 is, it either helps you do more sales, because businesses don't survive without sales or revenue. The two is that it makes you better at what you are. So you're a subject matter expert, you're experienced in something, and you can just do that better, faster. And then the third thing is actually the inverse of that, usually is where people apply it the most. But the third part is, I just get her done, right? And typically people look to get her done with the things using AI where they personally don't want to do, so they can go back to doing the things that they do want to do. So if you think about AI in that context, either it makes me increase revenue, sales, it makes me better at what I am as a subject matter expert, or it just gets stuff done for me. That's a great start. And then the second thing is, use it in a way that either, like I said earlier, either it helps you be more of who you are, or it just gets rid of stuff that you have to do, right? But you never want to do. And then the first is just jump in. So 3, 2, 1, just jump in, pick any tool, it doesn't matter, they all have their trade-offs, but just get started. My background, I started off as a strategy management consultant, and then from there went and worked for nonprofits overseas. So some of you may be small business owners. I did some micro business lending, so even smaller than small businesses, in Vietnam, and then went and expanded internet access across sub-Saharan Africa. From there, got picked up to do consumer products hardware. So any assistant that you've talked to on your phone, the assistants that are in your smart home, and those early experiences, I was part of those founding teams. And then from there, I've just kind of flourished and continued using AI in all of its iterations in software and product development. And happen to also be a designer with a very opinionated opinion of design. So if you bring me a design, be very careful, because I will have very strong opinions.
I like your opinions, Alex.
Yeah. I'd like to see your passport. You've been around the world and doing this for a while. Ken, what's your message when it comes to AI?
My message when it comes to AI, I think like you said, everyone has an opinion, and we can't escape it. We're hearing about it from everywhere, the media, and I think it's confusing to a lot of people. To be honest, it's confusing to me. And the one thing I do know is that it's a tool, and when you leverage this tool, you can really help save time and automate a lot of processes that could be inefficient. And so AI, in a lot of ways, is actually rewriting the internet. And if you use it in a certain way, you can help save a lot of time. And what we're doing at AdPrompt is we're helping small businesses save time by automating all of the marketing and advertising headache out of their operations. Because as you guys know, as a small business owner, you don't have a lot of time to do everything. And you oftentimes don't have enough money, because the trade-off is time or money, to pay for a full-service advertising agency to do the work that you need done. And so harnessing AI and all of the tools and resources these AI agents have access to, we can start to provide professional advertising services to small business owners with a near zero cost. And so that excites me, to be able to build something to help people, right? Because I'm not trying to displace people. I think one thing about AI is the fear of job displacement. That's a hot topic. I'm sure we're all hearing in the media. There's lots of sides of that debate as well. It could be just a result of overhiring in the near zero interest rate era and COVID. So maybe there's bloat. But one thing is for certain from my experience is that we do now have the opportunity to reduce our engineers, and it's evolving. It's not that we're getting rid of people, we're retooling them and we're retraining them. So we're augmenting people with new tools and a new process where we can automate that process using these tools. And the tools are very, very good. So if people are afraid of it because they don't understand AI and they avoid using it, then the job displacement might impact them because they might get impacted by people that are using the tools. And so I think the best way to get to know something is by just doing it, getting in and start to experiment with AI and get familiar with it. It doesn't have to be scary.
You've given me a lot of ideas for follow-up questions right here, but I want to get to Allie. Yeah. Allie, who's been nodding her head like this because you're listening to what Ken has to say.
You've given me a lot to think about there, Ken. So, and thank you for assembling this community. I mean, this is an incredible group of human beings, I see so many familiar faces, and then faces of people that I don't know yet, and I'm very excited to connect. My whole mission and the business that I founded is really to move AI into a direction of good, right? Of responsible AI, of human-centered AI. And when I have conversations with employees, with leaders, it doesn't really matter. I think that there's some general themes there, with overwhelm, with noise, with a lot of conflicting messages. So my kind of a suggestion to anyone in the AI space is to get curious, right? Just ask different questions. Instead of asking like, what can I use AI to do that I'm doing today? Maybe it's what do I want to do tomorrow that I'm currently not doing because I just don't have the capability. So when we kind of reframe the question and we ask bigger questions, I think we can unleash, potential, more value than we even considered initially. So that's a lot of the approach that I take is instead of trying to figure out how to replace the value that currently exists, it's how do we add value? How do we create value? So it's kind of this concept of not looking behind us, but looking ahead of us. So not what am I going to automate that I already do, but what can I create that I don't currently do today? So that's kind of my approach. I'll stop there.
Pick it up, Tim. Pick it up from there.
Very good, thank you. Tim Creasey, Chief Innovation Officer at a company called Prosci. We help organizations manage the human side of the changes they're trying to implement. And it turns out lots of organizations are dealing with this AI change. So my stance on AI, when I think about AI, I think about it as a bundle of capabilities for doing stuff with digital information. It can take in digital information, it can work on it, and it can kick out digital information. But I really believe human-centered AI design is about starting with people and their challenges and their aspirations and their goals, and then figuring out how to lay these digital capabilities on top of human aspiration. I think if we can help people effectively integrate AI into what it is they want to do, they can achieve higher quality outputs in less time, with less mental strain, and with more enjoyment. And like Ali alluded to, sometimes achieve stuff they never imagined possible in the first place. So, and then my soapbox I always get up on is AI is your intern, not an oracle. If you think about AI like an oracle and you go ask it questions and expect the truth with no context, you're gonna scoff when it's wrong, because it is gonna be wrong. It's just a digital mashup artist. But if you treat it like an intern, you give it direction and guidance and context, you give it expectations, it becomes an amazing digital collaborator that helps you do stuff you never could have done before. So
Let's go deeper, shall we? And you know what? I'd like to ask you about some examples. Like, tell us in real life what you've been doing with this. Give us some of the stories that you've actually seen. Can I start with you, Tim?
yeah, so I fell deep into an AI hole Q3 of 2020 or Q4 2023. That's right when the illustration stuff came out. And the very first thing I created was hyper-personalized coloring books for all my nieces and nephews. Because I had created a whole series of adult coloring book pages to go along with benchmarking data, not that interesting. But my son said, well, if you can make adult coloring book pages, can't you make them for our niece? And she was 6, and she loved unicorns, and she downhill skied, and she had a pet rat, and she did judo. It's hard to find coloring book pages of a unicorn doing judo. But I had dove really deep into this digital collaborator, and I realized I could tell it to be an early childhood development expert, and I could tell it to be a coloring book page maker expert, and then I could have it make hyper-personalized pages for my niece. And then I could say my nephew's 2 years younger, make his a capital letter J and make him fishing and sledding and riding a bike. And so I can't draw stick figures, but I could imagine hyper-personalized coloring books, and now I had a digital collaborator that could help me make it happen. So that was very, very early on, just in terms of the notion of the unimaginable by yourself, that now you have a partner to make happen.
That is great. I think we can relate to that. Allie, do you want to add in a story of how you're using it?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally as a business owner, I think it's removed a barrier to entry to business ownership in a lot of ways, right? I can launch my business much more quickly than I maybe could have 10, 15, 20 years ago, because I have access to tools that business owners didn't have at that point. So I appreciate it. I use it all the time, and I use it in very thoughtful ways that I know that are creating value for me. So kind of going back to my original message is, what am I not currently doing that I could be doing, because now I have AI as a capability. It's an incredible tool for me to even just create value for my clients, right? In the tools that I create that they can utilize then to make the process faster. It makes the communications faster. I build websites, or it just depends on kind of the use case. But for me, I would say it's a removed a barrier to entry for a lot of entrepreneurs in a really fantastic way.
It almost seems like you might spend more time thinking ahead. Taking that time, then it actually takes you to get that assignment done. Yeah, Ken, how are you using it? AdPrompt, AI, how are you using it, buddy? Tell us more. You're quite a disruptor, I think, in the marketing world right now, aren't you?
Well, I try to be.
I know.
We're using it. We're harnessing LLMs to build our platform, and so with my CTO Bakish, which is back there, he's been hard at work for the last year. So we have 19 AI engines that have subtasks that automate the entire workflow of online marketing and advertising campaigns. And so we couldn't do that without the underlying technology of AI. These LLMs, these frontier models are very capable, but they're multimodal and they're very broad in the capabilities. So if you start to narrow down in those capabilities and be specific about what you're asking, then you can really start to kind of fine tune how it works and what you get out of it. And then if you can orchestrate all of those engines on top of LLMs across a platform, then you can really start to see efficiencies. And then I think we talked about value, like making sure that you're getting value. So whatever it is that you're doing with it, what's the value output? I mean, you're paying money for tokens. Tokens are becoming more expensive. You want to make sure that whatever it is you're doing, you're getting value. It could be for your work, it could be your entire business, or it could be for fun. And so when I'm not participating in AI by building it for small business owners, I like to use it during work. It's like you have Perplexity Comment. So any web-based task in your job, you can outsource that to Comment, right? Where it's like, go cancel this subscription, because I just don't want to deal with that. I don't know where to find the cancel. I didn't even know I subscribed for it. So you could just tell this AI browser to go find whatever I signed up for 6 months ago that I want to cancel, and it'll go cancel it for me.
And how do you do that again? You just go find it. I think I need to do that.
Perplexity's browser called Comet.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
But that's so I can be working on an email while Comet's canceling something for me, all while on this monitor I have Claude, building a sales tool, for the sales team. And then I'm working on my emails, and I have all this going on. But personally, I enjoy using it. I like creating music. I think I've started to pair music with my blog posts. So I'll write a blog and I'll create a soundtrack for that blog, and I'll create the artwork for the song. And so I'm tapping into different kind of mediums to express something. So when someone reads my blog, whatever they get out of it, whether they like it or not, I don't know, but they hear it too, and then they see the artwork. So collectively, I get to express it in a lot of different ways because everyone's different. So they'll look at it, they'll hear it, they'll see it, and maybe it connects for them because of the song. Or maybe because they're more creative, they see the art and that helps them. And so I'm trying to kind of play around with the different mediums to express something. And I can't do that without AI.
That's really insightful for me to hear that. Okay, what do you want to add to this? I want to hear some stories.
All right.
I want to hear how you're really using it. I want to hear about
That's a
people.
high bar, but I'll give you 3.
Okay.
I think 1 for fun, 1 practical, and 1 that's kind of bleeding edge. So I had the good fortune of working and spending almost a decade at Google. And I also worked for Atlassian, an Australian company, running some inside incubator stuff that was early AI. So I've had the chance to really explore these tools. And the practical, or we'll start with the fun one. The fun one is I actually keep a diary. Maybe that's a surprise, I don't know. But if you can digitize it, right, feed it into your little chat of choice, and just write the following, which is psychoanalyze me. and it will give you some crazy stuff. But it's very interesting to see like all these notes that you've written and thoughts that you had, if there's patterns to them, right? And so that's just a fun one. If you're able to digitize your journal or thoughts in some way, it's a really fun one. A very practical one that I use, I expect, so I'm a fractional executive at companies, and for finance people, I expect them, if it's QuickBooks or whatever, I expect that they'll give me a report where AI has gone in and said, how are we doing versus where we expect it to be financially, right? Like very simple, very capable, very practical, and it's not about them doing less, it's about them getting that, putting their layer of judgment and business knowledge about the company on top of that to give me deeper insights, right? And then I'll give you a bleeding edge one, which is a little crazy, very Uber specific as a designer, so I'll just caveat that first. But for designing software, the look, the interface, where you put the buttons, design is usually always, the tools that we have available to us are always usually behind coding a little bit when it comes to AI. But lately, within the last 2 months, there have been really some incredible stuff you can do. And so I have designers who are working towards now actually designing, if you will, in code. So traditionally, historically, when you build software, it is, you know, the past day was Adobe, it's now Figma as a tool. And people are in Figma designing screens, designing layers, just like kind of imagine a very complex version of PowerPoint, right? But with the developments of AI recently, they actually can take, here's all the base Lego blocks or foundational pieces I've built for the product, the buttons, the layouts, the menus, etc. And they can take a screen or two, give it to their tool of choice, and it can start to build out different flows or different versions of this flow. Now, does that take them away from their job? I'd argue no, because what it allows the team and I to do is actually build 6 versions of it in a time that it would take them to build just 1. So now we can sit and look at all these versions and says, what's actually best for our customers? That's how we're using AI. And then the best part is we'll do a couple iterations, we'll go back and forth, we'll send it back to them, they'll make improvements, it goes back into prototyping, and then as soon as that's done, we can actually ship that into our code base. And so now engineers get designs that are actually built ready for the code that we want to release, rather than engineers taking an abstraction, if you will, like a PowerPoint slide and saying, okay, I need to translate that into code. We're now all able to work in a way where whatever tool of choice we use can ultimately turn into code. And when you can turn into code without different teams translating for each other, that just allows you to ship either more or allows you to have more fruitful discussion to say what is actually best now, because we have more time to debate what is actually great for our customers.
This is an amazing world we live in right now as you're listening to these panelists right here. I want to remind you we're going to open it up for questions. So if you keep that question in your mind, if you have one. I'm going to flip this a little bit, okay? Let's talk about something. I have 2 things I want to ask for sure. Okay, I want to ask things for sure. First of all, how about if somebody's out here and they're trying to decide, like, I want to learn new skill levels, I want to go into something with this, I want to change jobs, I want to own a company. What are some of the pathways they should be taking right now to take advantage of AI either in their business or their changing career?
I don't want to be reductive, but like anything that you would do in zeros and ones is the surface area for opportunity for bringing this capability to the table with you. So if you're doing research and it lives in zeros and ones because it was in a computer, AI can help do that research alongside with you or for you. I was at the dog park recently. I'm having so many good AI talks at the dog park, right? And so this one guy said, oh, I got so into it lately, but I can't figure out how to use it in my job. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. What is it you're using it for? And he said, oh, I used it to help plan this big vacation. Raise your hand if you've helped use it to plan a vacation, right? And that's like a good first toe dip in. And I said, oh, that's awesome. What do you do for a job where you can't figure out how to use it? And he goes, I run my own small upholstery repair company. And I'm like, oh, how does the accounting work? And he goes, oh, I hate accounting. And I'm like, that's what this thing would be so good at. And so I think it's really around examining what it is you're up to, and when is it you sitting in front of a screen, only interacting with zeros and ones in the screen, and when can you bring the partner to the table then? Every time you do, it opens up more hours for you to go to do the human-to-human stuff, which is what I think we're all here for in the first place. So I'd say anything that's involving zeros and ones.
Right. Okay. Anybody want to add anything? You want me to move on here? I want to talk about responsible use of AI, because that's something we're going to have to deal with, right? Or we are trying to deal with right now. What is your take? What kind of reflections do you have on responsible use of AI? Jump in, panelists.
I'll go first. I like this one. To me, responsible AI is many things. It is strategic, it is thoughtful, it is human-centered, and it is compliant. But it's not just any one thing. So I always encourage business leaders and companies to incorporate many voices at the table. So you don't want to form a working group that is just your AI innovators, right? You need to have the people at the table who are hesitant, who are maybe a little bit more fearful, because they have a perspective that maybe the group has not thought about. And that is part of kind of the responsibility I think we have as humans, is considering a lot of different perspectives and opinions and psychological states in the conversation around AI. I'm a big proponent of meeting people where they're at and kind of leading them along the journey that is very clearly defined within an organization. So I think that's another piece of the responsibility we have of AI is defining, like, what are we trying to do from an organizational level with AI? Yeah, I'll stop there.
Well, that's something we've always believed in life, is bringing lots of voices to the table as well. And that you feel is necessary for responsible use of AI. Tim.
Yeah, on responsible, I guess I would go real practical and a little theological. So on the real practical side, at Prosci, we got really clear on what people could put in and what they couldn't put in, and what they could do with what come out and what they could not do with what came out. And so those were the 4 areas that we tried to help people understand, so that we could leave a lot of room for them to play in the middle once they were clear on what you could put in or not put in and do with what comes out or not comes out. So that's like the real practical side. The more theological side, did anybody read Magnificus Humanitas? There's like 2 hands, all right. So Hope wrote about a 54-page perspective on AI that came out recently. I'm not Catholic, but it's worth reading if you want to. He makes the point that technology is never inherently good nor bad, but it's also never neutral. So the technology or the tool does not carry within it inherent goodness or badness, but in its deployment or use, always it's never neutral the way it gets employed. And so I think AI is going to follow a trajectory where inherently it's neither good nor bad, but we do need to be very thoughtful and intentional about how we're bringing it and where we're bringing it to life.
Yeah, I think being thoughtful, I like to look at AI as a resource that we all share. And so if we're using the frontier models like GPT 5.5, and we're using the Opus 4.8, like the latest, biggest model, most capable, and we're asking it the most basic questions, we're just consuming tokens, and we're just burning a lot of tokens that everyone is using together, collectively. And so I think understanding kind of how it works, understanding the different models, like what do these numbers mean? What does the different model do differently than that model and this model? I think that's a good start, because for example, if we have our AI at AdPrompt and it orchestrates across our intelligence layer of 19 purpose-built engines, we've reduced our token consumption by over 75%, because it knows exactly what it's supposed to do, and it's very specific, and it has the logic to call the right model to do the right task. And so we're orchestrating. Now, for the general people that are just using it, maybe just better understand and ask the right questions. I think being curious is great, and understand how these models work and the appropriate use of the models for whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. So I think, being responsible, being responsible with token usage, I guess, is one way.
Well, I just think no question is a dumb question because I don't think we know where it's all going and what's happening. And I wanted to ask you, who put up the parameters on what could be put in and what you could use? Who are those decision makers?
Yeah, we had an AI Tiger team that had an executive sponsor, representation from across the organization that got kind of clear and put that together.
Or
Yeah.
a responsibility wise for a company could be to put a token cap on employee usage, right? Because there was a recent company that was a very large company that had a consultancy come in and help them. They gave Claude to all of their employees, and then at the end of the month, the bill came and it was $500 million.
So,
Oops.
So is that what you're talking about when you say the coins?
Tokens.
Excuse me, the tokens, and that is, yeah, spending all these tokens.
Yeah, tokens it's the currency for AI.
Okay, y'all probably know that, and I don't know. But, no? Okay, because I'm up here to say no question is a dumb question here. So they got stuck with a bill like that
Yeah.
because they didn't know what they were dealing with.
They
huh?
didn't implement the right safeguards. Like they just said, we are going to, change management. We're going to bring AI to our company. We're going to augment the workforce, and we're going to, give them all Anthropic subscriptions, and they can start using Claude day to day. And boy, did they use it.
Yeah,
They used it a lot.
24/7 probably.
And there was 1 month billing period, and at the end of the month, it was $500 million worth of token usage. And they did not anticipate that.
But don't be scared. You can put caps. Like you
There,
can
yeah.
put
yeah.
caps.
Well, now you know.
So the responsible thing is, put caps on it.
Thank you very much. Okay, Alex, I haven't heard your take on responsible use of AI.
Let's try to understand the audience. Like, so let's raise your hand if trying to think. Okay, if you build software, raise your hand. Okay, very small amount. If you own a business or work somewhere less than 100 employees, raise your hand. Okay, a lot more people. Okay, so then I think my only net contribution to the good statements here is I think Tim, you said it right, like think of them as kind of like a junior analyst helper and give them the least privilege. So whatever you are on your journey of exploration with these tools, give it as little as you need to get what you want done, and then only once you feel comfortable and start to understand its limits, then go ahead and give it a little more. And Ken's public message, put a cap on it, just to be safe. That's it.
Good, very good.
Can I add one thing?
Please.
Yeah. I think I hear a lot of employees say that they feel so much pressure from leadership to figure out AI, and I think that's contributing to this unnecessary token use. Is then people are getting licenses, and then they're like, okay, well, I guess I just need to hit some sort of quota to justify that they purchased this license for me to use. So again, it kind of goes back to the same conversation of strategic and thoughtful, and really being thoughtful with the message that you're sending as leaders, as business owners, because that's interpreted in a very specific way by your employees, and that does result in unnecessary cost and potential risk. I'm a risk manager by trade, so that's where my brain goes. I'll stop there.
That just triggered one more. Sorry, it triggered one more thing for me, which is I think along with least privilege as well, I think it's worth having a thought around how do you keep, we call it when we're designing software, human in the loop, which is to say that you use it up to a certain point and then someone's got to double check it, right? Don't just send it off to a customer or a manager or your colleagues before you actually involve the human who has the judgment, the context, the good memory and understanding of the business to actually review it before it goes out the door. Whether that's internal or external, I would pair that with the least privilege comment.
Tim, did you have something?
Well, and just to that notion of thinking about them like an analyst, one of the questions I'll ask people is, what was your reaction the last time I gave you a wrong response? And we think about some all-knowing oracle, when we get the wrong response, that's where we throw it to the side, hallucinations, can't trust anything. If we think about it as that analyst that we've given the least permissions to, then a wrong response is an opportunity to nudge and continue to learn and move forward. So I love that notion of the permissions we grant. Cognitive sovereignty, I think, is going to be a big part of the conversation going forward in terms of what we decide to give up and then not decide to give up. So I think that'll be on the horizon kind of in the coming conversation.
Yeah, I just want to add one more quick thing. Once people start to learn how to use these tools, you can almost like code and build anything, but just because you can build it doesn't mean necessarily you should. I think now everyone's shipping everything, and you should probably also make sure that you're adding value. Like, is this thing something that people want or need? Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. So just keep that in mind when you're shipping a ton of products, thinking that this is something that everyone wants.
The phrase my team has heard more than any over the last 25 years is "to what end?" To what end? To what end? Like, what is it we're setting out to achieve here? Whether it's a little tiny thing or a big thing. And I think declaration of where we're going is something a lot of folks are desperate for right now.
Let's flip to something else, because actually, I can't believe it. We're getting there on time, so I hope you have a few questions. We'll have a microphone for you. We're hearing a lot about this in the media. So what are your thoughts on what you're hearing as you practice it so much, but what are we not hearing as well? Take it away, whoever wants to take that answer for us.
I'll give it a real quick one.
Okay.
I think it's getting presented very negatively right now. We're hearing about graduation ceremonies where people are getting booed off the stage and so forth. The story that Ken told you about that bill, the 1 month token bill, in the enterprise conversation right now, token optimization is actually the conversation. So the arc went, everybody's using it like crazy, to how do we actually start to throttle back and make sure we're using it in the right place. So I think there's this fascinating dichotomy between the enterprise conversation of making sure we don't get stuck with those bills and kind of the more public conversation that has much more of a presented negative sentiment. That's my read.
I was going to say that I think with all of the noise that is in the media and in the news, however you consume that, that is more reason for your companies to take a stance on it and be very clear of, like, not a stance maybe, but like a strategy and approach. Because if your employees are hearing AI is going to replace us, but that's not your plan as a leader, then they need to hear that, because otherwise they're just running around with fear in their hearts, and that's then translates into how they're going to perform, which may not be very well, right? So that's the piece that I would say is, like, get very clear in your organization what you intend to do so that you can kind of intercept those messages.
What are we not hearing? That's why we're here tonight, to hear a lot about what you feel are the truths and that kind of thing. Are there some things that we're not hearing that this audience needs to know about?
I don't know. I mean, this is kind of more philosophical, but we're hearing a lot, and everyone has mixed emotions. It's displacing jobs, it's ruining the environment. Water, electricity, it goes on, right? War. The Pope saying disarm. Don't use AI in warfare, which I think war should be very expensive and hard, and it's becoming cheaper and easier, and that's kind of scary. But what's scary is, and what I think we're not hearing, is that AI was built by humans. It was trained by the data humans created, and in many ways, AI is a reflection of us. And so, if we fear AI, we might actually create what we fear. Because the conversation, if it's dominated by scary things, we're talking about, AI is evil. Well, AI is going to be trained on everything we put out. And then maybe AI is becoming more evil because of our perspective. And I think if we stay positive, if we leverage it as a tool for good, and we talk about all the good things we're doing, that could have a positive impact in ways we may not understand yet.
Anything you want to add to that, Alex?
Oh boy. Let's see. It's very early. Okay, I'll say it this way. It's very early days of this technology, right? Let's get super nerdy for a second, yeah? Okay, so you have in your pockets, amazing little devices that can scour all over the planet, right? That is only possible because of this material called copper, right? And copper evolved to glass, actually, which is fiber optic, right? And initially when that came out, we were able to shoot one beam of light through that little glass tube. And you got like, relative to today, you got like meh internet, right? And then we figured out how to bend light 96 different ways in that same size glass tube, so that now you get incredible speeds on your phone. So that copper was Ma Bell, AT&T, all those companies from the 50s roughly, and it's taken us, what, 75 years to get to where we are today? So we are in like year 3 of this journey, right? So it's hard to say, but I think what's relevant and what the folks here have said is watch it, monitor it, right? Make sure as a society we kind of put some guardrails around it, but it's way, way too early, right? Like when the guys put copper in the ground and phone poles, and like when we put underground sea cables connecting sub-Saharan Africa, we didn't know this was gonna happen. We didn't know the iPhone was gonna exist, right? And so you can choose how you wish to view that lens, but both are possible. There is a very kind of negative view of it, and there's a very positive view of it. The only thing I would encourage you is, it's year 3.
And it's moving so quickly, so quickly. Thank you. That really plays into, it's our final question. It's our final question round here, right here. And it fits right into what you were saying, Alex. So I'll end with you. I won't start with you right here on the final question. But for those folks who are new to this frontier, to this, whatever we want to call it, that might be an old-fashioned word for it, but this AI world, what do you want them to know? What do you want them to know? Because you dabble in this pretty deeply. He's last. Allie, I'm going to let you go first.
What do we want them to know?
What do you want them to know?
Well, I mean, I honestly think what Alex, you said was just like very important, right? Because I think so many people think, well, I'm so behind. No, you're not, right? Like it's so new still. It just landed, I think, in people's phones and desktops in a new way. The technology isn't necessarily new, but this kind of presence of it is new. And so when I see people get overwhelmed because they think they're behind, that's my biggest concern is you're not, right? Just take a step, ask a question, get curious, and ask bigger questions, right? Not just like, how can I use AI, but like, what do I want to do? And then kind of work backwards, I think, from where we've been approaching this.
Very nice. I'll build on that. I'd say go find your YO use case. So not like use case. We all know what use case is. It's what people are trying to give you demos and shiny. I think it's so important that each of us find the individual thing that's keeping us up at night or getting us up in the morning where we can employ these set of capabilities. So I do think that kind of make it really personal. The 3 words I leave people with are humility, curiosity, and tenacity. I do think there's an element of humility in terms of not thinking you got all the answers, because this thing has the ability to help you come up with all kinds of new answers, but you have to kind of be bought into the fact that you don't have all the answers now. You have to be curious and want to go learn how it works, what's on the other side of this set of capabilities. And there's certainly a level of tenacity, iteration, and continuing to engage it and work with and through it is the way you're going to start to make some progress there. And then, yeah, to the notion that like, if there's 12 grades of school, like in school, there's 1,200 different levels of AI literacy in your organization right now. It's just fascinating how far out some folks are and how at the very beginning of the journey most folks are. And so I'd encourage you, do not get discouraged. Learn as much as you can because, like you said, we've all had the exact same number of days exposure to this, right? Like when computers got to mainstream, everybody, like big enterprise, had 30 years to figure them out. And then all of a sudden the people got them, right? This flipped the script. All of us got this capability in our hands. And so I do think there's some fascinating innovation and absorption of innovation that organizations are going to have to figure out. So.
Ken?
I think, Tim, what did you say earlier about technology as a tool? It's not neutral. It's, what was your quote?
It's neither good nor bad, but it's not neutral.
It's not neutral. I think it's important that, AI is a tool. This is a resource that we all have access to. And so I would hope that we're not afraid of it, that we start using it for good things that we're curious about. We can start asking, better questions and satisfying our curiosity, and start to talk about the positive things that we're doing with AI, because it isn't neutral. And if you have a few people using it for whatever reason, and if we're all on the sideline and we're not an active participant in the future, then we don't know how that's all going to evolve. So if we all jump in together and we get familiar with how it works, it becomes less scary. There's a lot of positive that you can get out of it. And again, it's a resource that we all have access to, and it is exciting. So I just don't want people to be afraid of it. I don't want people to create, AI that is scary. And I don't want there to be only a few people that own and control the resource. So I think that if we can start using it, and collectively we can make sure that it's available to everyone, and I think that will be helpful.
Excellent. And Alex, I asked you to wrap it up on that question.
Yeah, so I'll just end with how I started, and then we'll get into Q&A, which is, I'm sure, way more exciting. But 3, 2, 1 is how I would encourage you. So the 3, think of how it can help you do more sales, be a better you expert, or just get her done, right? And the best way to approach that is, what do I want to do more of? Versus, what do I not like to do? And I could just hopefully give AI to do it. And then 1 is just go do it. Pick one, go, run.
Excellent. Super practical right there. Okay, before we get to the audience questions, we would like you to chat with our team who is roaming around here. Are you a team member that can raise their hands and show us? Very good. There's a short survey that they would like you to take so they can learn more about your engagement with AI. It's just a few short questions, and then guess what? You're automatically going to get early access to AdPrompt Pro for 1 month free. So as you see them, are you going to have laptops maybe or something to take?
Inside, yes.
Inside as well,
Yep.
on the table.
Yep.
Please take advantage of that. That would be wonderful for the type of feedback that they'd love to hear from you. Okay, we've got a microphone right here. Don't be shy. Get on up and ask your question to this brilliant panel right here. And please, would you identify yourself?
Hi guys. Pat Wallace. Transparency. I run an AI company. But doesn't everybody?
Can you all hear him? Okay. That's what we call a trick microphone right there.
That's right. Yeah?
You can't hear me now, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Okay.
Great panel, really good discussion. Allie, I wish I had 5 people in my SMB that met about AI. I wish I had the guardrails you guys do. How does a small to medium business with no AI, probably no internal IT, maybe they're using an MSP, they want to embark on the AI journey? Lots of things like security and compliance and guardrails and $500 million expenditures. Where do they turn for expertise and to lead their journey? Go ahead, Allie. To you.
To Allie. To
So
Tim.
Allie, you can take on
To
all these,
Ken.
all these
To
SMBs tomorrow.
I mean, maybe no. That's the goal, right? I mean, this is why I do what I do, because I think I see people like you who are overwhelmed, and you're like, I don't have the internal resources.
Well, I'm not overwhelmed. I have a company that does it.
Oh yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yes,
You
but
and I will
I mean,
talk
you're
afterwards.
representing it very well, right?
Yeah.
The question is really
Yeah.
important, and I'm sure these 3 gentlemen have another perspective. But I mean, I see this, and I think that there is an approach that doesn't have to be super overwhelming, but does set the stage for future growth. And
Yeah,
whatever that looks like for a company, right? It doesn't have to be any particular way. I think it's meeting, like, where do you want to be? Where do you want to go? And how do I take advantage of this capability in a way that makes sense for my business? And there is there is a way, there's a path forward, and it doesn't have to necessarily be something that you're like, okay, now I have to build it within my company. There are people around who are,
Absolutely.
not predatory and who are going to help.
I would also encourage you to look at whatever software you're already using right now. If they are not integrating and rolling out AI solutions, you might have picked the wrong horse. But most of the solutions and softwares you're already leaning into are beginning to augment what they're providing with some pretty impressive AI capabilities as well. So,
True, but I can't call Microsoft and say, help me with my AI.
yeah,
'Cause I
definitely.
rolled it, yeah.
Yeah, I got numbers for guys at Microsoft, but they're not going to be helpful anyways. I think the challenge with Microsoft is you roll out Teams, everybody uses it for meeting summaries, and they're like, we're done with AI. It's like, no, you're not. Meeting summaries is like 1/1,000,000th of what those capabilities are sitting there for. And so I actually think the biggest thing is sit down for 2 hours and say, what are the 4 hairiest challenges that we are trying to deal with right now? Like, begin with you and your challenges, and then start to say, and then open up GPT and say, how might you help me solve or tackle these 4 biggest challenges I've got?
Excellent.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Really,
Thank you.
really good information.
Isn't it?
Really
It's
good.
amazing. Okay, next question.
I really appreciate what Carolyn and the whole team have been doing here to talk to this audience, which is so diverse. The one thing we're not hearing from is the man on the street. Who are your customers, and will they trust anything that's AI created? That's a key component, is trust. So I just want to put that out there. I don't know where you guys are. I don't think anybody here knows where this whole audience is in the whole scheme of things. But in any business, it comes down to who is the customer. I've been in retail for a very long time. Carolyn and I have been working on school-to-work type projects since I came to Boise. So one of the cartoons when I was a ski mechanic was in the trade magazine is, here's somebody trying to stock the shelves, and the automatic door opens and a customer walks in, and the caption is, "Oh, I could get some work done if I wouldn't get so interrupted." By who? The customer who's paying your bills. So don't forget who is using whatever it is you create.
As a technologist, I'll just speak to that briefly, because I don't know how many people will understand what I'm about to say.
Okay.
Trust, so to Alex's point, we're only 3 years in, right? So this is new, and we cannot differentiate between what's AI generated and real now. But there are ways to architect systems, like for example, on the Ethereum blockchain, there's this technical specification called ERC 8004. And what that does is it creates repositories or registries. And so it'll assign an autonomous AI agent. So an AI will get this non-fungible token identifier, that's a universal ID, and this ID is tracked on the Ethereum blockchain over time, and it'll give a behavioral score. So I bring this up because in the context of trust, you can start to see how this agent is behaving over time, and whether or not this behavioral score, this trust score, is allowed to operate within your network or your software, your application, whatever it is that you do. And so it's new, it's very early, but there are new governing systems that are being developed and adopted and implemented and tested to address things like trust. So if you have an identifier, you'll know that it's creating AI content, you know that you can track the source or provenance is preserved, and you can start to see the behavioral scores of these autonomous AI agents when they're acting autonomously, agent to agent. A human doesn't see that, but you can start to see these certifications or these scores. And so that's like the infrastructure layer that is happening now. And so it's how we kind of adopt that and how that's kind of, brought to the surface where we start to see, well, I'm not going to do this, or I'm not going to use this or trust this unless it has this certification, or it has this score 80 and above, that kind of thing. So
Fascinating. I had no idea that was even available out there. That is something, Ken. Thank you. Next question.
Hi, thanks. You guys are awesome. I have two questions. One's more depressing and one's really not depressing. The more depressing one is I heard on a podcast recently that the amount of energy output that AI uses is so great that the way that it's so free and available to everyone right now is not going to be able to be possible in the future. Is that something that you guys know anything about or are talking about, or like have any ideas of how that is going to be handled? Maybe it's the token idea. I guess I don't really understand, because as a business owner, I'm just trying to understand how deep we go into AI with in case in the future they're like, oh, just kidding, you guys actually can't have it. You know, like, is that a conversation you guys know anything about?
What's your other less?
Yeah, my other not depressing question is, do you guys see a potential path of AI creating more in-person and real-life experiences? Because I feel like I see that happening on a micro scale in my environment of, yes, internet and technology is important and it can do amazing things, but it's almost creating more of a desire and a drive for in-person things and real things and more real businesses that actually exist in real life. And so do you see that as a potential happy side effect of AI?
Those are two good questions. Let's get to them.
You're looking at me like.
Yeah.
I'll make it quick.
Yeah, I loved your first question. Did everybody get it? Okay, you heard it about, will AI be available for everybody? Or will they cut us off?
That's a tough one. I'll start with the second one real quick.
Okay, you chose B instead of A. Okay, go for it.
Okay, you want to do A? I'll do B. Well, it's a longer conversation, but I think the pendulum swings. I think that we will be attracted to nostalgia, and I think we'll crave in-person communication, in-person relationships, something that we can anchor our mental health and our reality to something that we know is true, which is like us here today having this conversation. You asked your question, I'm attempting to answer it like this is a real human-to-human conversation. And so I think that we will crave that, because if we work remote or if we're just constantly interacting with synthetically generated content, I think the pendulum will swing where we will value human creation, and we will value businesses that emphasize human first and emphasize and value local experiences, in-person experiences.
Yeah,
so I think
I guess I meant it as like a positive of like, how can AI make that more possible? Like, maybe you have to work less because AI is doing something that you had to sit at a job for 8 hours a day, so then you have more time to be in person. Or maybe there is better ad management from someone like you for local retail businesses or something. Like, is it a positive thing that it could create that more?
I think it's around freeing up the time, like giving us the freedom of decision and time. So our customers are change management practitioners. Maybe they were going to spend 2 hours to build a communication plan. Now they collaborate with AI, build that plan in 15 minutes, and they have an hour and 45 minutes to go do sit-downs and one-on-ones and meaningful conversations with the people that they're supporting. And so I do think it's that notion of freedom of time to allocate it to the more human stuff. On your first question, we are getting to the end of the era of subsidization of tokens. Like in the last 2 weeks, this is all the news that I'm paying attention to, is talking about that everything was subsidized. We were worried about this AI bubble. Remember hearing about that a couple years ago? No, we're underbuilt by a factor of a couple, which is why we're going to enter a token shortage phase. They're going to get more expensive, and we're going to have to get more thoughtful and intentional about where we go ahead and allocate those. So it's not going to be that they're going to be taken away from everybody. It's that the intense subsidization that was done to encourage experimentation over the last 2 or 3 years, that's drying up in a very quick way. They were doing it on their dime to get us all.
We want to make sure everybody hears your conversation. Thank you so much for those questions. Do you have a question? Okay.
Apparently I'm just a short king. No, I'm Logan Powell. I'm charmed by like what you guys are sharing. Honestly, my small question would be like, from my micro schism of what I know of AI, is it's trained on data sets. Some of those data sets have been sourced maybe from artists, from hardworking people who have built, whether it's the sources, the articles, the databases for colleges, scholarly articles, etc. And so the current model of all these LLMs is trained upon them. And so I'm kind of curious, as some of you are at the forefront of this businesses, building your own businesses that leverage LLMs or even your own systems within house, I'm curious, how do you source those data sets? Is that synthetic data? Is that you building it yourself? Are you using it from these platforms elsewhere? Or, where's the ethical implications and how are you guys pursuing that in that industry of like, how do we protect artists? How do we protect business owners? Let's say, as a business owner, I use AdPrompt, and I say, oh, well, here are the assets for imagery, for products, for all the codes and organizations and systems I use. I just bestowed that onto you. How are you utilizing that and putting that in your data sets?
Yeah, I'll answer that because I feel like it was addressed to me. So we isolate every account, and each AI assistant is dedicated to that business. So the content that's created is owned by that business, that user. The challenge though is if we're using the underlying model, right, that was trained not by our data sets. So there's this kind of like, I don't know, we can control as much as we can. We can preserve, the integrity of the data. We can preserve the privacy of the user and business's data. And we can even enable the ability for that business to commercialize the generated output of our system. And that's how we built it. But we can't control how the underlying frontier models and LLMs that we didn't build, how they trained their models. We can leverage those models to do great things. But that's a tough question. I mean, there has to be precedents. We haven't hit that yet. But going back to how we've architected it, it's about using the data when we serve an advertisement, or if something is posted or published, then that data is retrieved and used to improve the performance. But that stays within that account and it's secure, so it's an isolated, almost like stack. And so we learn from it, but it's not sharing that data, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. Like, that makes me feel 10 times. I think it's beautiful, everything you're doing with it. Obviously, as a business owner, you want to protect what you're building and some of the maybe unique value propositions you do have.
Yeah, and then so that's how we built it, and then we want to help people make money for whatever it is that they do. And so that's why we're making advertising 90% cheaper, and we're connecting local advertising demand with small businesses, with local content creators and publishers. So if you're an artist, I think there's like the Backyard Artists group here that I want to support deeply, and I will reach out at the right time. But they can start to create advertising opportunities that's organic and not against what they stand for, and then open that opportunity up to local businesses that also want to support the Backyard Artists. And so they can start making money without having to go to Meta or Google, that they can work directly with the local community. That money is used and it stays in the community. So it's an advertiser promoting their local business, and it's an advertising dollar spent that benefits a local artist. And so what I love about advertising when I got into it 16 years ago was the creative side of it, the storytelling, the art. And some of the greatest creative directors of the agencies would go into the streets and look at the street art. They look at the graffiti, because that's kind of like the spear tip of culture. And so to create a powerful story, you want to understand what are the artists doing, because they're kind of leading the way in cultural, behavior. So we've built a system on top of decentralized and tokenized infrastructure that connects peer-to-peer demand supply in the local market. So I want to support all the local artists.
And we are here for more questions. Not me. This brilliant panel is here for more questions tonight. I mean, did this open your eyes? Did this open your mind? Would you like them to continue to do this? I think this is just a neat venue, Ken, and an opportunity to be community here. So I want to say thank you again for putting this community together like this. To Ken right here, and AdPrompt AI, and don't leave, because we got this as a private party till 8 o'clock, I think, or something like that. And please visit with those who want to help you take the survey right here, please. But I also would be remiss if I didn't say, is this a brilliant panel that Ken put together? You guys are so awesome at what you do. I wish wish I was as intelligent as all of you. That is amazing. Seriously, that
You
was
are.
amazing. So another round of applause for everybody that's out here tonight. I'm thrilled to have had the opportunity to be with all of you, and I hope we do it again.
You're gonna be the MC for all of our events.
Okay, well, I don't even mean it that way. Just let me be here in part of this because I feel like I'm
Deal.
going to leave here a bigger and better person. And I hope you all do too. Thank you.